Good day, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps, law firm for seniors today, February 2nd, 2026. Good to have you here. My name's Eric, attorney now for 46 years, founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm. What we do is represent seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. We do that under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which provides that if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call you. And our most important message to seniors is that your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits, retirement income is protected by federal and state laws. It can't be taken from you. It's available for your needs. And you don't have to pay debt you can't afford to pay. Even if you got sued and they tried to garnish your bank account, there's a federal rule went into effect in 2012 that automatically protects twice the amount you get each month in federal benefits such as Social Security from garnishment, regardless of what other funds are in there or where they came from. So if you got 1,500 in Social Security, times two would be 3,000, and your bank account is protected automatically. If you had more than that in there, it's not protected automatically, but you could still file a claim exemption or challenge a garnishment with the court in the state where you live, and they would release that money. But as long as you keep less than twice the amount of your federal benefits in that one account into which your Social Security is deposited, or your federal benefit, like a post office, a railroad retirement, or VA benefit, that's all federal retirement. As long as it's twice the amount is less than twice the amount in there, your bank will protect that automatically. There's a department in the bank that does that. Okay, and you don't need to call the bank and tell them. There's no form you need to fill out. It's just done automatically by your bank. Now, if you have any questions, put them in the chat feature. I'll try to address them there. Always like questions. Um, and then I have things that I've written out or people have inquired of Helps that I go over. So a person calls us from Texas and he says, I'm concerned about the debt that I owe. I need help. I don't want to file bankruptcy. Uh, I fear the payment that's required for 5 years would still be too expensive for me to pay. I receive Social Security disability and I'd like to know how I can protect myself against creditors. Well, okay. So before I started Helps, I probably filed 30, 40,000 bankruptcies. So I know bankruptcy. Helps was founded because seniors don't need to file bankruptcy. The vast majority don't need to. But if they don't pay their debt, creditors can call and make their lives miserable. So when a person enrolls in Helps, they give us the creditors you owe money to. We send out a cease and desist letter, and they have to leave you alone. We don't turn anyone away. That's our main purpose, is to protect you from collector harassment. Our second mission is to educate seniors and disabled persons how they can maintain their financial independence. That's one reason we have these YouTube live videos, so we can talk about things. So this guy from Texas, he says, I don't want to file bankruptcy. He doesn't need to file bankruptcy. Okay. He gets Social Security disability. It's protected. Okay. Even if someone sued him, they couldn't touch it. Um, he, I fear the payment that's required for 5 years would still be too expensive for me to pay. You're talking about a bankruptcy. Well, there's two types of bankruptcies. There's Chapter 7, which is the common bankruptcy where you simply file and wipe it out. And then there's Chapter 13, is where you make payments for a period of 3 to 5 years. And this person is a little confused. But no, they don't need to worry about filing bankruptcy. And you can always call us and ask us questions about this stuff. That's what we're here for. We don't represent people in court. Our clients don't need to go to court. But what we do is give legal information that you need in order to be able to help you. Okay? I've been sued for a credit debt by a debt collector, it sounds like. I'm disabled and I need help with my case. I cannot afford a lawyer. But if you have any free services, I would appreciate the help. Thanks in advance, as you say. Well, you don't need to hire a lawyer. Okay. If you're on Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefits, or retirement income, pension, that income is protected. Even if if you owe the money and they sue and they get a judgment, they can't collect from you. You're going to be fine. Don't need to worry. So what happens when one of our client, when someone calls us, either they're a prospective client or their existing client, and they've been sued, what do we tell them? Well, okay, if we have 5 people that call us, maybe 1 out of 5 is being sued, 3 or 4 are behind and getting hounded, and one out of 5 is completely current on everything. But if you're being sued, or after you enroll in helps, if you do get sued, then what we're going to ask you to do is to get us a copy of the lawsuit. We just need the first 3 or 4 pages. We don't need everything, just the first 3 or 4 pages. And then what we're going to do is we're going to contact that attorney. We're going to send him a letter letting him know that your income is protected, Social Security or pension. And tell them that you're not going to file a response to the lawsuit. We understand they're going to get a judgment. Remind them of the protected nature of your bank account. But it doesn't matter. It's protected either if we remind them or not. It's protected by your bank. And then we're going to call you, explain to you why you don't need to worry, why you don't need to go to court, and send you some emails that has links to articles and videos from helps that explains why your income's protected and why you don't need to worry. So yeah, if you're sued and you're a senior getting protected income, you're going to be fine. Okay. And then if you ever have any questions, if you get any follow-up paperwork, you can always call. We'll go over it with you. That's what we're here for. Okay. See, before helps, clients would come to me for bankruptcy, and I talked to seniors and they had minimal income, and they couldn't afford bankruptcy. And I tell them you don't need to file bankruptcy. Well, why? Well, because your Social Security is protected, so is your pension. But I knew when I sent them home that creditors were still going to call them and they'd still have questions. We talked to them, but so finally helps came to be in 2012 when I finally realized that there's a better way of help seniors, and that's by using the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act as their attorney to get collector communication. And that way they could always have someone to call. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. The cost is minimal or free. We just want to be able to help people. So if you're in that situation, if you're in this situation, struggling with debt, call us and we'll go over it with you. If you're signed up with a debt management company, some person made a comment on one of our website or something. They said I'm drowning in debt management, which means they signed up with a debt management company. They weren't told when they signed up with a debt management company that their income was safe. Instead, they were put into making payments that they simply couldn't afford. And so, if you're signed up with debt management, making a payment you can't afford, you can stop making the payment. And if you don't want to be bothered by creditors, contact helps. We can enroll you. We'll send them letters so they communicate with us. They'll leave you alone. Okay? Don't want you to worry. So this person contacts us from Florida, and they say, hope everyone is well. My name is, and my grandfather is, and so it's a grandson looking out for his grandpa. Good for him. Wells Fargo's really sent him, my grandpa, to collection and is suing him for, looks like $9,800, which is almost as much as he gets a year in Social Security. The only reason Social Security, how can I obtain judgment proof for him? Well, you don't have to obtain judgment proof for him. He's automatically judgment proof. Okay? He gets minimal Social Security. Okay? He might even be able to enroll in helps for free. And then he's going to give us a copy of the lawsuit he got sued with. Oh no, he hadn't been sued, but he's going to give us the creditors he owes money to. We're going to send him a cease and desist letter. They're going to leave him alone. And we can talk to the grandson and the grandpa together if they want, or if the grandson has power of attorney, we'll talk to the grandson. But our main purpose is so grandpa doesn't worry. because he doesn't need to worry. And there's nothing you need to do to get this judgment proof status. Judgment proof is based on your income and your assets, but primarily your income. And so, yeah, he's automatically judgment proof. So this person contacts us back on January 27th. The son was calling with dad, but the wife is in rehab at the moment, and they both get Social Security and pensions. They have a condo they're buying as their primary residence. They have another condo that they're upside down on. They have more than what it's worth. They have a free and clear car. We read what we okay. He owns a car, no other assets. Credit card loan debt he's been paying on for the years totals around $75,000. That's a lot. He has auto pay set up for everything. We read what we did and sent him an email on how to stop the auto pay. You can stop the auto pays. Um, he lives in Florida. We talked about how to remove a lien if they're going to sell the home. The home is protected. Apparently, the son has power of attorney, and we enrolled him on the 29th, which was what, last Friday or Thursday or Friday? So he doesn't have to. So bless his heart, the son watching out for dad and mom. We enrolled him. How much easier are things going to be when they don't have to make those auto payments for $75,000 worth of debt? And if they ever have a question or worry, they can call us. The son can call us. They don't need to worry. Their home is protected in Florida. The other home they're upside down on will eventually get foreclosed on, but they're not going to need to worry about it. You know, the major reason HELPS was founded, well, I guess to stop creditors from harassing people, but just as equally so seniors would always have someone to call if they needed to, if they had a question or if they were scared or worried. Okay, that's what we're here for. If you do have a question or you're scared or worried, you pick up the phone and call. A lot of times, persons will call HELPS 3, 4, 5 times before they decide to enroll. And then when you decide to enroll, talk to someone this morning and explain to her that no, you don't need to fill out any form. We just do it over the phone. And when you enroll, we keep you on the phone. I'll click a button and you'll get sent an email that says welcome to HELPS. That email has all the contact information, address, phone number, email addresses, and gives instructions how to get us the creditors, the collectors you don't want to hear from anymore. So you just do it over the phone, so which is kind of nice. That way, okay, that way you can be enrolled immediately without having to worry. Okay. So this person contacts us from Illinois. I guess the husband is 74, the wife is 67. They both receive Social Security, and husband has a pension. And the wife is still working, but um, so she's got some income from wages. Is that protected? Well, every state protects a minimum of $217.50 net per week in wages from garnishment. And a lot of states protect more than that. Okay, $217.50. That's $435 every 2 weeks. Is about $945 or $950 a month. But some states, for example, Texas, don't even permit wage garnishment, and in some states like California, you can make $600-700 a week that's protected from garnishment. A bunch of other states have raised the amount that's protected. See, I think it was back in 1996 that the federal government set that $217.50 net per week in wages. Now you might say, well, why hasn't the federal government raised that amount that's protected? Well, I guess they didn't want to have to deal with it anymore, so they just kind of turned it over to the states. We don't run into a problem with our clients getting garnished. Well, one reason a lot of them don't work, and those do work, many of them are never sued. And if they're sued, the creditor would have to know where you work, which isn't that easy to find out. And then even if they did, a lot of them live in a state where the money's protected. Okay, so it's not going to be an issue. So if you're working now or you want to go back to work, great. Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. If there is, we'll talk to you about it. Okay, we're not scared to refer someone or recommend someone file bankruptcy. We don't do it ourselves, but we'll talk to you about it. But it's very rare we need to do that. So they go on to say um, they're buying a home. Let me see. They got debt with a debt consolidation company. And of course, one thing we ask when if you're with a debt consolidation or debt management or debt settlement company, we always ask, were you told when you enrolled with this company, did they tell you, by the way, you don't need our help because all your income is protected. You don't need to pay any of this debt. The answer is almost always, no, they never said that to us. If they would have told you that, you wouldn't have enrolled with them. You would have realized you don't need to worry about it. So if you're signed up with a debt management or debt settlement company, you can stop paying them. You don't need to pay them anymore. And stop. So Ms. H asks, when a person is judgment proof just by their income, does that include the property located in an unlimited homestead state or just the income? Well, if they got an unlimited homestead, okay, what's a homestead? Well, that's the amount of, virtually every state has an amount of equity that's protected from creditors. Equity you have in a home. Some states have unlimited homestead exemption. Florida, Texas, a few other states, a lot of states in the Midwest, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, I think the Dakotas, maybe Colorado. Okay, which means it doesn't matter what the home is worth; it's protected. No one can go after it. But even if you live in a state that has a smaller homestead, maybe the homestead exemption is 50,000 in your state, and you got a home that's worth 200,000 and you owe 100. Okay, so if it's worth 200 and you owe 100, so you got 100,000 equity, but only 50,000 is protected. That means if a creditor sues you, they're going to try to take your home. No. Can they? Well, theoretically, but they don't do it. Why do I know? Well, I've been in practice, 46, 47 years. I want to say 48 years sometimes. 1978. Do the math for me. I became an attorney in October of 78. Anyway, no, they don't. They're not going to go after your home. And if they were, there's a way to stop them, but they're not going to do it. And a lot of different reasons. Well, maybe you own the home jointly with your spouse. That means you own it, each of you own part of it, and if you die, then it's going to go to your wife. Maybe your kids is on the home. There's a lot of reasons why your home doesn't need to worry. Well, you don't need to worry. But if you have any questions on any of this stuff, be sure and call us. The number's down here, 855-435-7787, or it's 855-HELPS-US or helps us. We got experienced attorneys and paralegals that are going to be able to answer your question or questions. We don't want you to worry. So this person writes in, they say, I'm a veteran living off of VA disability. I've fallen behind very badly on several debts and have collectors calling me. I live in South Carolina. I want to see if you guys could help. Yeah, we can help. Yeah, you bet. Your VA disability is protected. No one can take it. It's also a federal benefit, so it means if someone were to sue you and get a judgment, twice the amount you get in federal benefit, like a VA disability, in your bank account is protected automatically by your bank. Now, if you're going to ask your bank manager about that, he's not going to know about it, but there's a department of the bank that does. And attorneys, 999 out of 1,000 attorneys don't know that rule, but it's been in effect since 2012. So, but they don't practice in this area of the law. That's why I have a problem sometimes, and I've done it before. I think I did it last Friday or a few days ago. I'll show articles from debt management, debt settlement companies on how to deal with things. I want to check out. Okay. Hold on. Ann, come here. Have them educate you on it so it doesn't happen again. Go talk to them. Okay. Um, Sorry for the interruption. Couldn't be helped. I knew there was a chance that might happen today. Person contacts us from Ohio. They say, I'm a senior with original and junk debt collectors. So original is like the credit you owe money to, or it might be it could be an original creditor might turn it over to a debt collector, but a junk debt collector is down the road. It's been sold to different debt collectors. See, that's one reason why HELP's protection is ongoing. When you enroll in HELP's, it's not just a one-time thing. I mean, remember, you can call whenever you want. I've told the story about the couple in Oklahoma years ago. They called every day for like 60 days in a row. I know because I talked to them a lot of those times because they were worried. And every time I said, one of these days you're going to stop calling because you're going to finally realize that you're okay. And lo and behold, I remember one time I was thinking that, gee, I haven't heard from these folks. And sure enough, they stopped calling because they finally realized that they didn't need to worry. So he's got original and junk debt collectors because a lot of times collectors might sell a debt. You get a notice 3, 4, or 5 years down the road. That's one reason why HELP's protection is ongoing, because if you get a new collection notice, you get us that information. We'll send out a new cease and desist letter out to that new debt collector that's trying to collect from you, and then they're going to stop bothering you. And he says, current, out of work, and being sued by both. Well, you don't need to worry about being sued. If you're sued and your client of HELP's, we're going to ask you to get us a copy of the lawsuit. We usually only need the first 3 or 4 pages. What we need is the case number, the name of the attorney, and the address. Okay, we don't need everything else. And then we're going to send the attorney who filed the lawsuit a letter letting him know that your income is protected. You're not going to pay the debt. And then we're going to call you on the phone, tell you why you don't need to worry. Send you emails with links to articles and videos from HELPS that explain why your income is protected, why your assets are protected, why you don't need to go to court. Okay, so that's what we do. And if you're in that situation now and worried, call us and talk to us so we can answer your questions so you don't need to worry. That's why HELPS was founded, so seniors would stop worrying. We got referred to someone today, a nice lady. Where's she from? Can't remember. But her only income was $1,500 in Social Security. I probably wrote it down to talk about it later, but I'm going to talk about it right now. $1,500 in Social Security. I think she was from California, and she had called a company about filing bankruptcy, and this company actually connected her to HELPS because they realized she couldn't afford to file bankruptcy, and she didn't need to because her only income was Social Security. So they got on the line, and I talked to her, and I explained to her why they referred her to us, because they realized that she couldn't afford to file bankruptcy, and And because of her age and her source of income is this minimal Social Security, that they couldn't do anything to her. But they also knew that she could be harassed by creditors. And so, good people that they are, they told her to call helps. And then I explained to her what we did, and she had never heard of this before. And I told her she wanted to know what it would cost. I explained the cost, and I'll explain that now. First off, we don't turn anyone away. A lot of our clients get our help for free, but the most a person would pay would be $40 for 24 months, then $20 for 24 months, free thereafter. It could be $30 for 24 months, 15 for 24 months, free thereafter, or $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months, free thereafter. Okay, based on your household income. So I told her what it would cost, and then I said, I don't want you to enroll now. I want you to check us out more. And so I sent her an email. We call it a general email that has a link to our webpage and some YouTube videos. And I said, whenever you're ready, I've saved this information. When you call back, we're going to know who you are, and you can enroll. You can enroll today, later on if you want. And she was so ecstatic. She was pretty happy. She says, I don't believe this. And I said, well, it's true. That's what we do. You don't need to worry. You don't need to pay this debt. And she had quite a bit of debt, if I remember right. Well, I know it was 15,000, but it's all relative. You know, a 15,000 debt, you know, that can be a lot of money for some people. You know, 5,000 can be a lot of money for some people. So the person contacts us and they say, I'm 81 years old and I'm getting sued by a debt collector from a credit card almost 2 years old. This company is LVNV Funding, LLC. The only income my husband and I have is our Social Security checks. So I know right now their income is protected. She's being sued. They get a judgment. They can't do anything to her, to them. My only income, okay, I know this doesn't matter, but I have a lot of medical issues I'm dealing with. It does matter. You know, I don't, you know, if you have medical debt, that's included. Okay, you don't need to worry about it. We can talk about that. And they talked about all their medical issues. And he says now I have to worry about this, which means um, being sued. Well, you don't have to worry if you're sued. If your income is protected and you're sued, um, you don't need to worry. Your income's protected. Remember, twice the amount of your Social Security or federal benefit in your bank account is protected automatically. Can't be taken by your bank without you having to do anything. You don't need to call the bank manager. You don't need to call them. There's a department of the bank that deals with this. This law has been in effect since 2012. The banks know very well. Now, technically, they have 2 days to look at your bank account to determine that money came from a federal source. But usually they do that within 2 to 4 minutes. But once in a while, it takes longer. But you know, no, they're gonna protect that matter, the money automatically. It says this company has bought 4 different credit card debts I owe, so it's a matter of time before they sue on all 3 accounts. Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. I need. They're gonna waste their money by suing you. I need help. Please, I watch all your videos. When I hear that, I feel sorry for people. But if it helps, I'm glad. The account they are suing me on is for $2,200, another is for $1,500, another is for $685, another is for $1,200. And they give it. The suit they are suing me is a 1 year and 11 months old. Thank you so much. Well, you bet. So we're going to call this person back, and if they enroll in helps, which they probably will, we're going to send a letter to the attorney who sued her, let them know their income is protected. We're going to call her and explain why she doesn't need to worry one bit. Not at all. And if she does worry in the future, she's supposed to call us. And that's you too. No matter how many times. The, when you enroll in helps, you don't pay like every time you call. It's a flat fee. Means we always there for you to answer your questions and to assure you so you don't need to worry. That's the only way this works. Now, just because you owe debt and you don't pay it, does it mean you're going to be sued? No. Probably more likely than not, you won't be sued. I used to give a percentage, but I don't do that anymore because I get in trouble. I tell someone, well, this percent will, you might get sued by this percent. And then if more than that percent sues, then people call other attorneys that helps, and they call me and say, Eric, you say only this percent gets sued, and this person's upset because more than that percent sued them. So I don't give a percentage. But it doesn't matter. You could be sued by every single one. They can't do anything to you. And you can always call. Right? Right. So this person calls from Texas. They need help with Pro Collect. That's an interesting name for a collection agent. They're pros at collecting. Oh gosh. And it says they won't allow a settlement offer. Well, you don't need to settle with them. This person from Texas, they're getting Social Security and a little pension. Their income's protected. And you could pay them if you want, but you don't need to pay them any money. Your income's protected. You're going to be fine. Okay. Person contacts us from Illinois. You can see we represent people all over. It doesn't matter where you are here. Okay. I have an outstanding medical debt of $9,000. I was once paying $30 a month. They called me and said that amount is no longer acceptable. They wanted $100 a month. I'm now paying $50 a month. Yet, which cuts into my food allowance. The bill dates back to 2013. They received 90% from the insurance company already, yet they want to bleed me dry. It says on when he wrote it in, he says they want to bless me dry. Well, I think he meant, see, when they want to bleed me dry. Well, you don't need to pay him the $50 anymore. If you've entered into a settlement agreement with a debt management or or with a creditor or collector, you can stop that. You don't have to pay him anymore. Okay, there's nothing illegal about that. The law's pretty clear. Well, it's more than clear. The law is clear, not pretty clear. It is clear that your income is protected. Now, don't feel, if you feel guilty about not being able to debt, that's natural, but you got to realize these companies charge interest. Uh, they've factored in already that a certain percentage of the debt that people aren't going to be able to pay, and they're still making a profit. And lawmakers protected your income for a reason. They don't want seniors going without food or medicine or heat. They want you to be able to take your medicines, and they don't want you worrying. I don't want you worrying. So if you're in this mess, it's not a mess. You'll be fine. You call us on the phone. Numbers down below. There's people right now you can call and talk to. It helps. And you can call 2, 3, or 4, or 5 times before you decide to enroll. I want you to feel comfortable about it. I want you to, because our clients, all you have to do is look at these YouTube videos. They go back for quite a few years. Look at the comments people make. You'll understand that we're legitimate. As far as I know, really the only law firm in the nation that does what we do. And that's protect seniors from debt collector harassment. And there's a concerted effort by debt collectors and by companies that help people pay debts to not let seniors know about their protected income and that there's a Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If they would tell them that, these collectors wouldn't be able to collect money from seniors, or the debt settlement companies would cut out a significant percentage of their business. I remember reading an annual statement from Money Management International a few years ago, and if I remember right, 35% of their business was seniors that were getting Social Security and pensions that they helped. Now, I wonder if some of those seniors weren't being told that their income was protected. So I suspect a sizable percentage of business for these debt settlement and debt management companies, profit and nonprofit, both, are seniors. And yet a lot of good people recommend seniors go to a debt management company and a nonprofit one. But the problem is the nonprofit one, I mean, you read their articles, or the profit one, they don't include the fact that your income is protected, or they'll just put in there a little thing about it, or the fact that it's protected in your bank account and you can be protected from collector harassment. Instead, they want you to pay the debt. Even the National Council on Aging, which gets $50 million from the U.S. government each year, on their articles, they never say anything about the fact that your Social Security is protected, that I can see, and that you don't need to pay the debt. Instead, they steer people towards debt management and debt settlement. Shame on them. Shame on all of them. You know, they may do good work for people that are younger that need help because they could be garnished or could have problems. But for seniors, you know, they should be telling seniors the complete truth that their income is protected, that they don't need to pay the debt. This person contacts us from Washington. I would like to talk to someone regarding my high debt. I am 72 years old and disabled. I have stage 4 cancer. I messaged you before and just saw a response in my junk folder. Yeah, we're going to call this person back and we're going to be able to help them. So that money that you're using to pay this old debt, you can use it for your current medicine and your food and your. I remember when Helps was brand new, I got a video of an old guy, and I talked to him on the phone, and I remember, but we took videos of people. I think they're still on, some of them are on our webpage, but those are 15 years old now or older. And this old guy calls me, and after I told him what Helps does, he was just, oh, he says, Mr. Olsen, he says, you mean I can buy a present for my grandson now? And I said, yeah, you bet you can. You bet, because he could use that. He wasn't making a lot of money, but he can use whatever money he saved, not having to pay the creditors, to buy something for his grandson. Okay. So I got to catch up on the questions on the chat. Um, B. Miller says, I received a letter stating one credit card sold to a collection agent. Do I send you a copy? Also received it. Okay. Yeah, if you're enrolled with Helps and you get a new notice from a new debt collector, yeah, we want that so we can send a cease and desist letter out to that new debt collector. And he says, also received 1099-C. I haven't filed taxes for a number of years. What now? Nothing. IRS isn't going to do anything. They know that you're on Social Security. You're not filing tax returns. Now, if they did follow up with you, call it would tell you what to do, but you're not going to have to worry about a 1099-C. What is a 1099-C? If you don't pay a debt over $600, a debt collector can send a notice to the IRS saying this money that you didn't pay should be counted to you as taxes. You should have to pay it. But if your only income is Social Security, no, they're not going to do anything. Even if you had other income, IRS normally doesn't do anything because they can tell that you could qualify for what's called currently not collectible status, CNC status, and not have to. So we've got videos on 1099-Cs. Don't need to worry about it. Okay, so Marino says they can't take your home from you, but they can put a lien on it, which will affect any transfer, such as loan, second mortgages, basically any movement. So we talk to people about this. A lot of times, let's say you have a home and husband and wife own it together. Maybe the debt's in the husband's name. Husband's 75, the wife is 70. Statistically, the husband's going to die before the wife. If the creditor sued and got a judgment against the husband, when he dies, the home automatically is in the wife's name. The judgment lien disappears. Okay. There's a lot of reasons why a judgment, they're not going to come after your home, why a judgment lien can be taken away. In some states, the lien can be removed through bankruptcy. Some states it can be removed otherwise. So judgment liens normally aren't a problem to be worried about. You can always contact us. We'll give you the information. Does it mean when a lawyer is suing a person that the creditor has sold the debt to them, or they just represent the creditor and try to get the money on their behalf? It it depends, but usually, and there's no usual about it. Let's say, for example, Capital One, which bought out Discover. Now they sue a lot, and usually Capital One has a law firm that they've hired to sue that represents them. It hasn't been sold to someone else. But once again, it doesn't matter. If your income's protected, it's protected. You could get sued by the King of England and they can't collect from you. Well, that's a good question. Donald asks, is there a limit to how much money you can run through your bank account in 1 month as long as you keep the balance under 2 times the Social Security, 2 months? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Uh, so what that means is like you got 1,500 in Social Security, 3,000 is protected in the bank account. If a creditor would have to sue you and get a judgment, they'd have to know where you bank and then file a writ of garnishment. And when the bank gets a writ of garnishment, they look at your bank account like at 10 a.m. and let's say it's 10 a.m. And as long as there's less than twice the amount of what you got in Social Security the previous month uh, in the bank account, then they protect that. Now, if you put more money in it in the afternoon after they rejected that garnishment, doesn't matter. So Turbo says, why would there be a limit? Well, um, we get a lot of questions that helps. People get creative on their questions. They're saying, well, what about this situation? And I don't mind answering those questions. Okay. At some point, you know, hypothetical questions can get a little bit too far out of the way. That one wasn't one. So we don't mind the questions here. It helps. It's got to work that way. So when you enroll in helps, we're there. If you're worried, I don't want you sitting at home worrying. I want you to call us on the phone so you to stop worrying. If you're still worrying when you're in helps about your debt, we're not doing our job. Does the bank let you know if a garnishment was attempted? Not always. Um, it might happen and you never realized it happened. But I remember seeing a letter, it could have been from one bank, I think Wells Fargo, where they sent a nice letter to the person that was being garnished and told how their money was protected, how the amount was less than twice the amount. And it was kind of a form letter they had developed. And I thought, well, that was nice of them to do that. So they'll never let you know. A creditor doesn't have to let you know they're going to try to garnish your bank account. You don't even need to. You don't need to worry about it unless you're sued and someone gets a judgment. Do the before so Mrs. HS before judgment is granted on a senior, do the creditors keep checking the bank account to see if they can take money out of it? No. I've talked about this before, but that's a good question. When I was a new attorney or years ago, you could call a bank and you could ask them, will a check for $500 clear on this account? And they would tell you. That way you could find out if you could garnish someone or something. Um, They don't. You can. The bank will never ever talk to you now on something like that. They would never do that. So when I was a law student, I clerked for a company, and I did what's called commercial collections, which was I tried to collect debt as a law student. You know, as a law, under this law firm's auspices. Um, I ran that part of their practice, and I made them quite a bit of money. And the commercial collections, what it was we tried to collect from businesses, but I was able to learn a lot about the collection, garnishments and laws and stuff like that. And things are a lot different now than they were then. Well, one reason I was in law school from 75 to 78, that was before the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which was passed in 78. So the rules were a little bit different. Uh, which, in hindsight, it was a blessing because I got to see both sides of the fence. I didn't really collect from individuals unless the individual owned the business, but I knew the law. Um, yeah, they don't have a way of knowing how much you have in your bank account. Person contacts us from Alabama. Bless their hearts. I have breast cancer, and my husband has prostate cancer. We have medical bills, a lot of them. We're struggling. We're on a monthly income. Well, bless your hearts. One thing is you don't need to worry about these other debts that you have. Okay, and if you're on Medicaid uh, and you have some of the insurance does not pay part of the debt, I mean you could pay a token amount. They're going to still treat you because they're getting most of their money from Medicaid or Medicare. Um, and then we'll always talk to you, go over this stuff with you. Thanks, B. Miller. I'll read what he has said. He says, over the past years as a client, I'm as a client, I've spoken with a number of your staff and always a pleasure, friendly, patient, and your help much appreciated. Yeah, our staff is very friendly. It's easy to be friendly when we can always give good news and tell people not to worry. Person contacts us from Kentucky. It says, I'm needing help with debt. I have debt and credit cards. Uh, I've been paying on time and the amount due. Unfortunately, it's becoming hardship. I'm 56 years old and disabled. I would like more information about help. So, HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors. Well, this guy is 56 years old. He's not a senior. And disabled persons. So, it doesn't matter how old you are. As long as you're getting protected income, which is Social Security or disability, VA benefits, whatever, VA disability, whatever, you could be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s. It doesn't matter. Now, granted, the vast majority of our clients are seniors, but we also help people like this person from Kentucky that's 56 years old. They can, we're going to tell them you can stop paying this credit card debt and use the money for your food and your medicine and what you need. And we're going to represent them ongoing. We're going to send letters to this person's creditors so that they leave them alone, and then they can always call and talk to us if they're worried about us, if they have a specific question. If they get a new collector that contacts them 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, get us that information. We'll send a cease and desist letter. If they're sued, we're going to write a letter to the attorney that sued them and tell them why this person can't afford to pay the debt. We're going to call the client, tell them why they don't need to worry, why they're not going to need to go to court. Okay? Do you have any templates or something to copy to let more people know about help? So I was thinking about, yeah, we got flyers that we can send you in car, and let Beatrice know she can send you a packet of flyers. You got it. When I started Helps in 2012, it was like throwing darts at the dartboard, trying to figure out, or throwing mud at the wall, trying to get it to stick, trying to let the word out about Helps. I did everything. We had TV advertisement, we had radio advertisements, uh, newspapers. I talked to senior centers. I even went to bankruptcy attorneys at their annual meetings or where they train them and talked to them about Helps. Uh, but the internet has changed everything. YouTube is wonderful. And then the other thing is a lot of our clients refer other people to Helps. Okay. We still should have a lot more clients than we do. We have tens of thousands of clients, but we should have more because, almost half of seniors have incomes within 200% of the poverty line. They're they're struggling. A lot of those owe a lot of debt they can't afford to pay. And I talked to so many seniors that they didn't know about Helps, and they learn about us, and they're so thankful when they find out. One of these days, hopefully when I'm still alive, but Helps will be here long after I'm dead. I promise you that. Um, um, Helps will be a household word. People will know, hey, if you're a senior and you have debt problems and you don't know what to do, call this law firm Helps. They're going to be able to help you. Okay, we've got a few more minutes here. Oh, this is a note from one of our videos from New York, or it could have been a video we do with senior living. He says, I don't think my retirement income is protected from student loan debt. I sure wish it was. Don't worry. Okay. Uh, Student loans will never come after a pension. They never do it. They used to be able to come after 15% of your Social Security, but they stopped doing that in 2018. Helps was involved in we were actually a plaintiff in a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against the federal government to make it easier on seniors to get on what's called income-based repayment plan. But that dragged on, and then COVID hit, and they stopped doing it. And then this last May, the Department of Education announced they're going to start trying to set off money for Social Security, 15% of Social Security. I did a couple of videos on it. I did one with senior living, and I remember telling Jeff Hoyt, I said, Jeff, I don't know if this is going to last. Is people going to start complaining? Plus, I don't get political, but I've heard Trump say enough that he's got this thing about Social Security. He doesn't want people to think that they're going to lose their Social Security. And sure enough, 30 days later, the Department of Education announced, we're not going to start setting off 15% of Social Security. We might do it in the future. We're not going to do it now. So now it was last a year ago, last May of June, that they stopped doing it. They were announcing they were going to do it. And now, if they were to do it, then they will have a program to get on where you'll base it on your income and probably waive it for most seniors. So, and we'll help people do that if that ever comes to pass. But right now, this person who says, I don't think my retirement income is protected from student loan debt. I sure wish it was. Well, you don't need to wish, it is. They're not going after it. Okay? Yeah, we got time for questions. Here's a good one. Guy calls us from Alaska, or is an email. I closed my business I had in December 31st, and now the only income I have is my Social Security. I have almost $1 million in debt related to the business, even though it was an LLC. What's LLC mean? That's been limited liability corporation. People are still coming after me personally for the money. I'm underwater on my home and have no other assets. Don't need to worry. Now, the reason he says it's an LLC, he says, why are they coming after me personally? Well, if you borrowed money with a small corporation, they always would have had you personally guarantee it personally. That's why they're coming after you. But you don't need to worry about it. Now, you got a lot of debt. Doesn't matter if it's $1 million or $10 million. Your Social Security is protected. They're not going to take your home's underwater. They're not going to come after your other assets. You don't need to pay the debt. And if you don't want to deal with the creditors, you can call helps. You can enroll in helps. We're going to send a letter to these creditors that you owe money to, and they're going to leave you alone. Now, technically, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act applies to consumer debt, not debt owed by a business. But it doesn't matter for helps. We're going to send a cease and desist letter where the debt is owed by a business you were involved in or by you personally as a consumer. And they're going to stop bothering you. Okay? So this person contacts us from Wisconsin. Wherever they are, they're cold up there, I think. Credit One is harassing me with tons of calls. I have contacted them repeatedly in the past year asking to consolidate the accounts and reduce the interest rates. We're not going to do that. They refused. Now I have less income and recovering from a heart attack. I'm in a nursing home. Help. Well, you don't need to worry about it. Your income's protected. You don't need to worry about Credit One. And if you want our help, we're going to send a letter to this Credit One, tell them to stop bothering you, and they're going to stop calling you. Now, you can block the calls. You don't need to answer them. But if you're having these problems, now call us. The number's down here. We'll talk to you. You'll be glad you did because we don't turn anyone away. And if it costs you money to enroll in helps, it's minimal. Okay. And then we represent you ongoing so you don't have to deal with these collectors. Person contacts us from Maryland. I'm struggling very bad with credit card debt, he says. I'm 62 years old and retired on Social Security disability. I'm having a very hard time keeping up with my credit card payments. Well, you don't need to have a very hard time keeping up with your credit card payments. You can stop. You're getting Social Security disability. Not a lot of money. You need all that money for your basic needs. You don't need to pay this credit card debt. And if you don't have to deal with the collectors, you're going to give them to us. We need the name, address, and account number. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter. We're going to leave you alone. Uh, the beauty about helps is we can enroll people. We enroll you over the phone. So when you call, you might call 2 or 3 or 4 times. When you decide to enroll, boom, we're going to enroll you right on the phone. We're going to keep you on the line. We're going to click a button. You're going to get an email from us. It's fairly long. It says, welcome to helps. It tells you how to get us the collectors. You can text them, email them, fax them, or mail them. And then we're going to send them a cease and desist letter. And then you're our client ongoing, so you don't have to deal with collectors again. Okay. Person calls us from. Oh yeah, this person I talked to earlier. I talked about this client earlier today. They called us from California. They're 78 years old, $15,000 in debt. She lives in a trailer on a friend's property and owns the trailer free and clear. No one can touch the trailer. She gets $900 in Social Security and $600 in alimony. She didn't know anything about helps, but she had called this other company and told them about us. And so I happened to talk to her this morning and told her what we did, and she was so relieved. And she said, well, Mr. Olsen, when I call back, are they going to know who I am? I said, yeah, because I've saved this information. Just give them your name, and they've got it. And they can enroll you. But I said, you need to check us out more so you feel really comfortable about what we do. We want you to feel comfortable about helps and what we do. So thanks for participating today. I think it's been a good start of the week. Hopefully things will warm up a little bit. Um, if you have a question or concern, call us. If you're an existing client, you can always call us. If you're a prospective client, you can always call us with your questions. We don't want you to worry. So I will talk to you tomorrow, same time. Have a great day. God bless. Bye.